First story, by Sarah Johnson. The Appalachian Mountains in the fall have always been my favorite destination for a solo hike. The vivid foliage, the crisp air, and the solitude create an unparalleled sense of peace. Last year, I set out for one such adventure in the heart of the Appalachian woods, hoping to find tranquility. Little did I know, my journey would turn into a spine-chilling experience. I had just reached a secluded part of the trail when I noticed something unusual. As I trudged along the narrow path, I came across a series of bizarre symbols etched into the bark of the trees. They looked like some ancient script, their origin unknown to me. Goosebumps prickled my skin as I tried to decipher their meaning. Were they warnings? Perhaps markers left by another hiker? Ignoring my unease, I continued, convinced that I was alone in the forest. But that illusion was shattered when I heard faint whispers, like a chorus of hushed voices. My heart raced as I strained to identify the source, but the forest remained silent. I chided myself for my paranoia and carried on, albeit with a growing sense of dread. As the sun dipped below the horizon, darkness descended rapidly. My flashlight pierced the inky blackness, revealing gnarled branches that seemed to reach out for me. Every rustle of leaves made me jump, and the whispers persisted, now accompanied by eerie laughter. I quickened my pace, the path ahead seeming to stretch endlessly. My anxiety reached its peak when I stumbled upon a makeshift campsite deep in the woods. The embers of a dying fire illuminated the scene, a tattered tent, a few discarded food cans, and a torn backpack. My mind raced with possibilities. Who had camped here, and where were they now? I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Determined to put distance between myself and the unsettling campsite, I pressed forward. My steps seemed to echo in the stillness, and the forest itself felt alive with hidden eyes. The whispers grew louder, now resembling conversations in a language I couldn't comprehend. Suddenly, a beam of light pierced the darkness, blinding me momentarily. I shielded my eyes and stumbled backward, only to find myself face to face with a group of people. They were dressed in tattered clothing, their faces hidden beneath dirt and grime. Their eyes, however, glinted with a menacing light. Panic surged through me as I realized I had stumbled upon something sinister. Without a word, they encircled me, their whispers growing into frenzied mutterings. My backpack was ripped from my shoulders, and one of them brandished a rusted knife. The intentions of these eerie figures were clear. They meant to rob me, if not something far worse. In that moment, my instincts took over. I turned and bolted through the trees, adrenaline pumping through my veins. The pursuit was relentless, but my fear-fueled sprint led me to the trailhead. Gasping for breath, I made it back to civilization, but the terror of that night still haunts me. Second story, by Mark Harrison. It was supposed to be an adventure of a lifetime. My friends and I had decided to embark on a camping trip through the remote forests of Eastern Europe. We were seasoned outdoorsmen, well prepared for any challenges the wilderness might throw our way. But nothing could have prepared us for what we were about to encounter. Our journey began in a picturesque village nestled at the foot of the Carpathian Mountains. Armed with camping gear and high spirits, we set off into the dense woods. The first few days were uneventful, filled with breathtaking landscapes and the comforting sounds of nature. However, as we ventured deeper into the forest, an unsettling feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. One evening, we stumbled upon a clearing bathed in the eerie glow of torches. At first, we thought we had found another group of hikers, but the sight that met our eyes was far from ordinary. A circle of hooded figures, their faces obscured, surrounded a stone altar adorned with strange symbols and candles. Unable to tear our eyes away, we watched in horrified fascination as they chanted in a language we couldn't understand. The ritual seemed ancient, otherworldly, and malevolent. My friends and I exchanged nervous glances, silently debating our next move. Just as we contemplated retreating, one of the figures pointed in our direction, and the entire group fell silent. Time seemed to stand still as their hooded faces turned to regard us. Panic surged through me, and the leader of our group, David, barked a command to flee. We sprinted through the forest, branches and underbrush clawing at our skin. The distant echoes of the hooded figure's pursuit reached our ears, and fear propelled us forward. Hours passed, and the forest seemed endless. We dared not look back, for fear of what we might see. Eventually, exhausted and disoriented, we found ourselves back at our campsite. Our tents had been ransacked, our supplies stolen. It was clear that the hooded figures had no intention of letting us escape unscathed. We had no choice but to abandon our gear and flee deeper into the woods. As night fell, we huddled together, shivering with a mixture of fear and cold. Every rustle of leaves, every distant sound, sent our hearts pounding. We dared not light a fire, for fear of attracting unwanted attention. It felt as if the forest itself had turned against us, its ancient secrets threatening to consume us. The hours passed slowly, and we clung to the slim hope that dawn would bring salvation. But as the night wore on, we heard the chanting once more, faint but unmistakable. The hooded figures were closing in, and we were trapped. With no other option, we made a desperate decision to split up, hoping that at least some of us might escape. It was a painful choice, but our survival instincts kicked in. In the darkness, we went our separate ways, each of us haunted by the fear of what might happen next. Third story, by James Mitchell. Oregon had always been a dream destination for me, with its lush forests and breathtaking landscapes. So, when I finally had the chance, I embarked on a solo backpacking trip through the remote wilderness. Little did I know that this adventure would lead me down a path of fear and danger. My journey started off perfectly. The tall trees of the forest provided a comforting canopy, and the sound of a nearby stream served as my constant companion. I followed the well-marked trail deeper into the woods, feeling a profound sense of peace and solitude. However, as the hours passed, I noticed that the trail markers became increasingly scarce. Panic gnawed at me as I realized I had lost my way. I retraced my steps, but the forest seemed to have shifted, and the path I had followed had disappeared. My sense of direction failed me, and I was well and truly lost. Desperation set in as darkness fell, and the forest took on a sinister quality. Unfamiliar sounds echoed through the trees, rustling leaves, snapping branches, and eerie whispers that sent shivers down my spine. I fumbled for my flashlight, its feeble beam offering little comfort. My heart pounded as I stumbled upon something that froze me in my tracks. A hidden clearing filled with rows upon rows of towering marijuana plants. I had unwittingly stumbled upon a remote grow operation. Fear gripped me as I considered the implications of my discovery. Who was responsible for this operation, and what would they do if they found me? I attempted to retreat quietly, my heart pounding in my chest. But my footsteps betrayed me, and I heard voices approaching. Panic surged through me as I realized I was not alone in the forest. I hid behind a tree, trying to make myself as small and inconspicuous as possible. The voices drew nearer, their harsh tones filled with anger and suspicion. I strained to listen, and it became clear that the individuals were arguing about something. I couldn't make out the details, but the tension was palpable. These were not friendly forest dwellers. They were dangerous. Suddenly, a beam of light pierced the darkness, and I saw them, 3 men armed with rifles, their faces obscured by masks. My heart raced as I watched them scan the area, their flashlight beams sweeping the forest floor. It was clear that they were searching for an intruder, and that intruder was me. I held my breath, praying they wouldn't discover me. Minutes stretched into hours as they combed the area, their voices growing more agitated. The forest seemed to close in around me, its silence broken only by the harsh whispers of the men. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they gave up the search and retreated into the night. I waited a while longer, my fear refusing to release its grip on me. When I was certain they were gone, I cautiously made my escape, moving silently through the forest, my senses heightened to the slightest sound or movement. My harrowing encounter with the hidden marijuana operation was a nightmare I would never forget. I eventually found my way back to civilization, but the fear of being pursued haunted me for months. The remote forests of Oregon held secrets far darker than I could have ever imagined. Fourth story, by Emma Parker. My boyfriend, Chris, and I had always been drawn to the rugged beauty of the Sierra Nevada mountains. We decided to celebrate our anniversary with a romantic camping trip, hoping to find tranquility and rekindle our connection. Little did we know, our idyllic getaway would turn into a spine-tingling ordeal. We set up camp in a secluded spot deep in the heart of the Sierra Nevadas, surrounded by towering pines and the soothing sound of a nearby creek. The first few days were perfect, a blissful escape from the chaos of everyday life. But as the sun dipped below the peaks, our romantic reverie gave way to unease. It began with distant echoes in the night, a low, mournful wail that sent shivers down our spines. At first, we dismissed it as the wind or perhaps an animal in distress. But the eerie cries persisted, growing closer with each passing night. We huddled together in our tent, fear tightening its grip. One evening, unable to bear the unnerving sounds any longer, we ventured deeper into the forest in search of their source. We followed the eerie cries, our flashlights piercing the darkness. The forest seemed to come alive with hidden eyes, and the air was thick with a sense of foreboding. Our journey led us to a ramshackle cabin nestled among the trees. It looked like something out of a horror movie, windows shattered, the roof sagging, and a foul odor emanating from within. Fearfully, we approached, and our flashlights revealed a scene straight from our worst nightmares. Inside the cabin, we found a deranged hermit, his wild eyes fixed on us with a mixture of anger and desperation. His emaciated form was covered in dirt and filth, and he clutched a gnarled stick as if it were a weapon. He babbled incoherently, his words a jumble of madness. We tried to retreat, but the hermit blocked our path, his gaze filled with a terrifying intensity. He muttered about intruders and protectors of the forest, his voice a chilling mixture of anger and despair. It was clear that he viewed us as a threat to his twisted sanctuary. In a desperate bid to escape, Chris and I pushed past the hermit and fled back to our campsite. We packed our belongings in a frenzy, every sound in the forest amplifying our fear. As we left, the hermit's wails followed us, a haunting lament that echoed through the night. We made it out of the Sierra Nevadas, our hearts still pounding with fear. The romantic camping trip we had envisioned had become a nightmare of isolation and terror. The hermit's deranged presence haunted our memories, a reminder that even the most beautiful places can conceal unimaginable horrors. Fifth story, by Daniel Reynolds. The Smoky Mountains had always held a certain allure for my group of friends. So, when we decided to embark on a hiking trip in the heart of this majestic range, we expected nothing but breathtaking vistas and outdoor adventures. Little did we know, our excursion would take a chilling turn. Our group consisted of 5 friends, each eager to escape the daily grind and reconnect with nature. The first few days of our hike were idyllic, with clear skies and stunning landscapes. We trekked along the well-marked trails, our laughter echoing through the woods. However, as we ventured deeper into the Smoky Mountains, a sense of unease settled upon us. It began with fleeting glimpses, a shadowy figure darting behind trees, distant footsteps that mirrored our own. At first, we dismissed it as a figment of our collective imagination, a trick of the mind brought on by the isolation of the wilderness. But our unease grew as these strange occurrences multiplied. We would set up camp, only to find signs that someone had been there before us, a discarded cigarette butt, footprints that didn't belong to any of us, and unsettling messages etched into the bark of trees. The words were cryptic, but the intent behind them was clear. They were meant to frighten us. One evening, as we gathered around the campfire, we heard a chilling sound, a low, guttural laugh that seemed to come from all directions. We scanned the darkening forest, our flashlights revealing nothing but trees and shadows. Fear gripped us as we realized we were not alone. Over the next few days, our stalker's presence became increasingly menacing. We would catch glimpses of him, a hulking figure in the distance, always just out of reach. He never made a move to confront us directly, but his menacing presence was suffocating. One night, as we huddled in our tents, we heard the unmistakable sound of heavy breathing just outside. It was as if the stalker had encircled our campsite, his intent impossible to decipher. We dared not venture out, our fear paralyzing us. As our hike continued, we became desperate to escape the relentless pursuit of our mysterious stalker. We quickened our pace, our hearts pounding with each step. But no matter how far we hiked, he was always there, a shadowy presence that never let us forget his malevolent presence. Our harrowing ordeal finally came to an end when we stumbled upon a park ranger stationed deep in the Smoky Mountains. We reported our terrifying encounters, but the ranger could offer no explanation. He assured us that he would investigate, but the fear of our relentless stalker still haunts us to this day. The Smoky Mountains, once a place of beauty and wonder, had become a nightmare of paranoia and dread. Our hiking trip had taken an unexpected and chilling turn, leaving us with a sense of unease that lingers even now. Thank you for sticking with us through the whole video. Also, I recommend you this video you see on screen, one of the scariest on my channel. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. This helps me bring you more thrilling content every day. If this video sent shivers down your spine, let me know in the comments.